What's going on, family? I'm just here to remind you that you can get yourself a copy of my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean, by visiting my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, and help support me as I continue on my mission to make sure that my people have our information, even though, there are many people trying to stop us from learning our history. But hey, we can teach ourselves, and one of the tools we can use is my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean. Remember, visit my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, to get your copy, and I appreciate your support. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the On the Shoulders of Giants YouTube channel. I am Joseph Ward, and when you see my homie Patrick Irvin with me, you already know what it is. It's Breakdown Friday. That's what we're going to start calling it from now on, Breakdown Friday. We're here with another video breaking down our information to look at the information, make sure we understand the information, and seeing how we can use this information in the here and now in today's time, because we believe everybody we're covering is giving vital information, and all of this information is a piece of the puzzle. So we're working to do our best, and with your help, to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together and be able to actively use this information to change our situation. So what's good, Pat?
You know, every time you do the intro, whenever you saying the slogans, like a bunch of songs just be popping through my head.
That's why you start laughing.
Because it usually be like lyrics to the song. Like when you say here and now, I start thinking about the I forget who sung it now. Here and now.
Yeah. You crazy.
And so like that's why I'd be laughing. Is it happening every time without fail, no matter what show, what brand, what. So anyway.
I should have been a ghostwriter.
You should have been, man.
There you go.
Legendary stuff.
Hey, man, tell them about your book.
Oh, so the book. There it is. The Chasm is basically a book that was written a while back to try to close the growing divide between black men and black women in America. And not just in terms of romantically, but just like the way we relate to each other in general. So we start out talking a little bit about the history. It's a brief overview. It doesn't go into detail, but it gives you the opportunity to have some places where you can start doing your own research. That's the first half of the book. And then the second half of the book, we talk about strategies and various different things we can do and understandings we need to have as we progress forward to try to make things better. And I found $3 in my pocket.
There it is. Raise the roof.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go buy a house or something. All right, but yeah, that's the book, The Chasm.
There you go. Amazon, right?
Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. Type in The Chasm by Patrick Irvin, The Growing Divide Between Black Men and Black Women. Definitely check that out. Leave a review if you do. Cop it, and we'll all enjoy living life.
Once again, like always, thank you to everybody who's supporting the channel. Thank you for all the views, all the comments, all the likes, all the shares, all the donations, all the patrons, all the book sales, everything that's going on to help this platform grow and to help this platform be able to actively give back to the communities that we serve on a regular basis. So you are contributing to that. So when you become a patron and when you hit the super like button and when you donate to On the Shoulders of Giants, whether it's any form, Cash App, PayPal, or whatever you do, however you feel like doing it, all that goes back into the community, goes back into the business, goes back into the community, and the business is the business of the community. So it's just what we're doing. So I do want to let people know that when you do put money into this, the money goes back invested into the platform, and the platform is invested into the community, and we're actively doing things in the community. So appreciate y'all, and y'all helping us be able to do bigger and better things for our community and be able to provide more, because without resources you can't do much. So last week we were breaking down the historian Robin Walker, Why is Black History Hidden? This week we have our esteemed historian, scholar, Ashra Kwesi, and we're talking about the Serapis, the creation of the god Serapis, and the Christ story and the Christ mysteries and the origins of the Christ concept and how that Christ concept was flipped for the Europeans to be able to use it for their gain. So we're going to get into that. We're going to break this down. And remember, each video we do is connected. So how can we use this information in today's time? So here we go.
That when the church was established, they actually used Ben Keperatu temple as a church. So again, if the temple was supposed to be so pagan and heathen, one has to ask, why use it as a church? Now, one of the times, this is the first time we're starting to see the Serapis Jesus. This Serapis was started during the time when the Greeks, after Alexander's death, his generals took over like Sutter one. It was during the Ptolemaic period that they started to take over and was here for 300 years. And they started to study the salvation and resurrection. And who is the salvation and resurrection personified as? A star. Okay. So studying this, when they came to the throne, they took and made and simulated a star into their Greek god named Serapis.
I'm gonna stop right there. So give a little back history and kind of bring it forward to because my main question that I'm asking to myself is, what's the overall purpose of the Greeks doing this, taking these Egyptian gods and amalgamating these different gods together and creating their own? But if you don't know about Serapis, basically Serapis was a Greek god that was created during the Ptolemaic rule of Egypt. And Serapis was a mixture of Asar and Apis the bull, Serapis. That's how the name comes together. And Ptolemy himself, he wanted to be seen as a god, and he started calling himself Ptolemy the First, Mariam Setep and Ra. And the Egyptians basically wasn't going for it. The Egyptians were not trying to see Ptolemy as a god. They weren't trying to rock with Ptolemy as a god. So in turn, they took these Egyptian concepts of gods, of these deities, and they created their own, and they created this Serapis. And this Serapis is one of the earlier Christ figures. And if I believe correctly, Serapis would have predated what we know as Jesus, as far as people worshiping Jesus in mass. So you will have Serapis first and then Jesus, because even if you look at it, they look at the followers of Serapis as Christians, and they say it's related to Christianity. So it's one of the earlier Christian deities or Christ figures that the Greeks created. So that's a quick synopsis on the backstory of Serapis. And like he said, they ruled it for like 300 years. And that was pretty much the last dynasties in Egypt before the Romans took over. But you want to add something to that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So my thought process is, well, why did the Greeks do this? Now, this is also a setup to what we're going to get to later, is how does this affect us now? So I'm thinking, okay, but he kind of explained it, and I kind of said it too. Well, neither one of us kind of said it. We said it. Ptolemy wanted the Egyptians to view him as a god. When they came in and they conquered, they were ruling. They took the indigenous Egyptian religions and they stripped them of them. So going back to what we was talking about yesterday, of why is our history hidden? Well, our history is hidden so they can maintain dominance. And this is in the religious sphere. So they took this information, they hid it from the people, and they gave them back what they wanted, or they gave them back a Greek version or their own version of what they took from the Egyptians. And it was for control. At the end of the day, it was for control. It was to maintain control. It was to have control. It was to make sure that the people saw Ptolemy and any other ruler of the Ptolemaic rule, see them as a god, because that's how they wanted to be viewed, because they felt dominant like that. So in a nutshell.
Yeah. And it to me, it goes along into the narrative of them creating critical thinking, them creating knowledge, and them creating advanced forms or higher forms of thinking and things like that. Because again, when we're talking about things coming out of Egypt, another one of the things that came out of Egypt was the Egyptian mysteries,
Right.
which is critical and the foundation of early human concepts regarding mathematics, physics, critical thinking, world design, astrology,
All the sciences,
all of those
everything we
things.
use today.
Right. All of the sciences and everything like that come out of those people that were able to go into the Egyptian mystery school and learn that knowledge and then bring it back out and take it back to their places, and become kind of the purveyors of that knowledge. And we know that those that create the knowledge, those that are viewed as the creators of the knowledge, have a certain level of prestige, authority, and influence over the direction and the way that knowledge is perceived.
Right.
So yeah, I would just add that it is tied in, not just in a religious sense, but in the sense of like science and where we are nowadays. You can hear people all the time saying white people invented critical thinking and mathematics and this, that, and the third. All
it's
of that
because
comes
of stuff
out of
like
the same,
this.
right? All of that comes out of this same vein, and then it goes back to the knowledge of Black history piece that we talked about last week, where if you don't know that your people or people that look like you even have created things that have contributed to the development of the modern world, what is there for you to really be proud and excited about?
Right. But also looking at it from a history and a militaristic point of view, it is, we've conquered these people. We're in control now. We want to maintain control, and I want these people to bow down to me and see me as a god because we've conquered these people. And I'm going to come up with, basically, Ptolemy is like, I'm coming up with a way to get all of these people, because at this time, Egypt has been conquered by several groups of people. So Egypt was just like a grouping of different types of people, different people from different lands at this time, from different nations at this time. So how can I get all these people who now occupy this place, this Alexandria? How can I get these people to believe in me as this God? So I'm going to come up with something that have aspects of each of their ways of believing and put it into one and try to shove it down their throat, basically.
And we see this actually in a lot of the Christian historians, and even some of the ones that are not. I think Dr. John Henry Clarke, if memory serves correctly, said something about how it's Dr. Blyden in his book. The name of the book just went blank.
Not the Underground Railroad. No.
Dr. Blyden. Dr. Blyden did.
I'm way off. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, I gotta look it up now. Dr. Blyden. I
got to look it up too.
Because it's on the PAC's website. Christianity, Islam, and the Negro race. There it is.
Gotcha.
So it's also like Dr. Blyden said in his book, Christianity, Islam, and the Negro race, where he talked about how some of these religions were able to take a firm foothold. Islam in particular was the one he was talking about, was able to take a firmer foothold in Africa because the religion was so fluid and so easily able to be adapted to things that were already familiar, customs, culture, customs and courtesies and cultural practices of the native people. And we see Christianity later on taking on a lot of those same traits of being fluid and being able to be moldable so that it's more digestible, more palatable to people that are being introduced to it, forced into it, whatever word you want to put in front of it. So it all works out the same as from a militaristic standpoint.
Because I need you to believe in this. I need you to believe in this. I need you to accept these ideologies, because this is how I continue my reign. So let's continue.
And made and simulated a star into their Greek god named Serapis. This Serapis, later on when the Byzantine Roman Christians come, this Serapis now becomes, as you look up here, the Jesus, with the sun behind his head. When I said the concept called Sa-Ra, that's why the sun is behind his head, because they were copying this concept. So all those images that you see in America on the churches of the European Jesus, that is Serapis, that was created at the Conference of Nicene in 325 AD, and is at these ecumenical conferences, is the formulation of the Western version of Christianity.
Stop it right there. So, because that's he's bringing it down, in my opinion, in my head, the way I'm formulating as far as how we use it for today. He's setting the groundwork and bringing it down to how religion is presented to us today in America, specifically Christianity. Is presented to us, imagery, the ideas that go with it, but especially the imagery, because your God needs to look like you. I'm not here to tell people what to believe in, what not to believe in. What I am saying is, as African people who are looking to build ourselves as a people, as a nation, and be able to self-actualize, whatever concepts of gods that we have, whatever concepts of religion or spirituality that we have, the deities must reflect our own reflection. They need to look like us. And right now, the deities don't look like us. The deities need to be Africanized. And even if you don't even want to go with that specific term, Africanized, they need to look like your black self. They need to look like you. And when you're looking at a deity that looks like the group of people who conquered you and dominated you, that's going to give you, going back to what we were talking about last week, that plays into and adds to that inferiority complex. How do you actively conquer or even effectively fight a group of people that subconsciously you have an inferiority complex about? And you may, and this might not, I'm not going to say this for everybody, but you may see these people subconsciously as your deities. So can you really actively or effectively fight these people and really get what you need? Or do you be stuck in the place of begging and hoping and wishing and trying to appeal to senses, to morality, like we were talking about last week?
Yeah, there's a real, and I know for a lot of black people, when you ask them what Jesus looks like, they might not know a lot of the scripture word for word, but they know the description. Skin of bronze, hair like sheep's wool.
Right.
But there's still something to be said for the fact that a lot of the images of Jesus that are presented don't match that description.
Right.
And by and large, people seem to be very dismissive of that. That means something, you know, that has weight on your subconscious. The other thing I will point out is the Council of Nicaea. It's something that people talk about a lot.
They do.
And my take on the Council of Nicaea is a bit different, because I'm always trying to figure out, what can I get out of this? What can I learn from this? So I don't get caught up in the back and forth of, you know, the ongoing debate about, did they create Jesus at this conference, or did they blah, blah, blah. Look, you're going to find people on all sides. Some people say he been existed. The council was just to determine whether or not he was actually the divine son of God. Other people say it was blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is, they had a disconnect in the Christian community. They came to the council and they fixed it. They all came to an agreement, and that was the story they rocked with. Now, there were some people that left the council upset. But you don't hear a lot about them.
You know, Arius is, you're gonna hear a lot about the figure Arius, and who, according to history, was speaking out against, especially if we go with the story of the creation of Christ at this. But a Christ concept was created, and Arius was like, nah, this ain't it. But they fixed their problem because the Romans were what was Constantine. They was able to link with the Christians. They was able to become Christian. He was and say, hey, now all of you who are against me, now you on my side, and now my army is stronger.
Right, because we gotta remember Constantine was a pagan.
Right.
That was trying to that was
trying to conquer the Christians.
Right. He was converting. So the whole argument that we hear, and the only reason I'm harping on this is because I feel like this
it's
needs
important
to stop.
though.
This debate about the purpose of the Council of Nicaea is good intellectually, but if we actually talking about doing something, we need to look at the outcome more so than what we think happened in the designs of it. The outcome was with the input, a bunch of different opinions and views and disagreements on how to classify Jesus. The output, one unified belief.
And now our army is stronger because everybody who we tried to conquer by force that we couldn't, we were able to conquer them by becoming a part of their religion. And now it's easier to infiltrate and take over these people and rule these people.
And there were a lot of these councils.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar. But the other thing is there were a lot of these councils. All right. So that's the other part we got to keep in mind.
Nicaea wasn't the only council.
Right. Let's not get hung up on this one. Like, and again, we're in a position now where we can't just, play around and masturbate with the information. We got to be figuring out, okay, how can we use this? What can we do with it?
How does this affect this right now today?
Right. So there and for those people that enjoy intellectualizing and trying to, because
that's cool. Just go ahead.
I was gonna say we call them historians, right? That's one part of it. That's one part of being a historian is figuring out the who, what, where, when, and why of past events. All right. So if you want to be on that side doing that, that's cool. But you need to be able to articulate the meaning in a way that people of action, people that actually want to make change, can use. That's the other part of being a historian, is being able to convert these past dates and acquaintances and situations into usable intel.
How is it relevant and how can we use it? Those should be questions we're asking ourselves. Because I was going to say, there's nothing wrong with intellectualizing the information. Just
absolutely not.
Within that process, hopefully you're coming up with some concise thing that we can do, some actionable plan that we can use to utilize the information, because all this information is vital. All this information is important. All of these scholars, these master teachers, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into giving us this information, collecting this information, understanding it. The least we could do is use it. That's just where I'm at. That's just where I'm at.
So you know what I think? I think Black people in America right now, we need to have our own, you call it the Council of Philadelphia or something.
Or whatever, yeah. We do need to have a council.
And we need to come together, and the very first thing we need to figure out is the role of the slave in our history. Like, what did it mean to go through that period of time?
Yeah.
Because that's our genesis. That's our origin story, whether you want to believe it or not. That's where we start as a people in America in this current cultural paradigm that we live in. So what does that mean? How do we relate to that?
I'm finna say, yeah, make sure you put your caveats in there, because they be like, nah, Black people were here before slavery. We know that. That ain't what he talking about.
Yeah,
that's not what he talking about. He's saying for this specific current Black American culture that we have today, for the experience that we have today. Yeah. So
yeah, we need to define that. Just like they define Jesus Christ, we need to define the slave.
There you go. Let's do it. I ain't played now. Oh, my bad.
Christianity. It is here at the conference of Ephesus in 431 AD that Aset was de-Africanized. Here she was de-Africanized because Aset was called Marie. She was a goddess also associated with love, just like Heteru. So they took from the concept Marie that you see on many of the columns like we saw over there, and I showed you Murray. What does Murray look like in the middle letter? Tell me.
Side A.
An A with 2 feathers, Murray. And they associated that with Mary. And this is where they de-Africanized the goddess of Set at the Conference of Ephesus. When we study these conferences, we can clearly see how they took and de-Africanized African Kemetic spirituality. It was the Conference of Chalcedon. This is where they took the term Sarah and associated with the Serapis Jesus as the Son of God. And that's the reason why, when it comes to these ecumenical conferences and other historical things associated with Christianity, they don't speak of these things from the pulpit. Because if you were to speak of these things, then you would start to do research and see its origin of where it came from.
Stop that right there, because that last part, my starting with me, talking to myself, everybody, it's imperative that we do our research. It's imperative that we do our research, because doing our own research and doing research as a collective, it's going to give us the informational foundation that we need. It's going to give us the breadcrumbs and things that we need to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm going to keep saying it. I believe each master teacher, each historian, each scholar, each lecturer was giving a puzzle piece. And how can we fit these puzzle pieces together for the grand plan, the grand thing that we need to fix our own situation, to get to self-actualization. But he's the de-Africanization of African spirituality, the de-Africanization of Black people in America. See where I'm going now? It's a pattern. These are patterns by those who conquer people. I once again, I need to strip you of everything African, especially your spirituality. I need to strip you of your African spirituality, and then I'm going to give you this spiritual system. I'm going to give you this religion. I'm going to give you this. This is what I need to give you. Now, what have we done with the religion that have given us? What's our overall outcome? Have we been able to reach our overall goals as a people? Hell, do we even have goals as a people? You know what I'm saying? But, well, go ahead. You like you about to say something?
No, go ahead. I'm disagreeing.
I mean, because I, in my opinion, we don't have goals as a people. So what they gave us ain't really helping us as far as to get to the point of self-actualization. Now, I don't think that that means that when you have any religion that you choose to use, I don't think that that means that because you're in this, you can't get to your goal. You have to Africanize it. How can you use this to get to your end goal? We're not here to argue back and forth, even talk about whichever path you choose to take. That's on you. How are you using that as a Black person in America? How are we using the things that we believe in, the spiritual systems, the religions? How are we using these to get to an end goal that's the best situation for us as Black people here in America? How are we doing that?
Yeah, and see, one of the things I will point out is culture is something that usually happens gradually over time without conscious thought or effort. You know, the mechanisms that you use to survive become things that define you as a people and as an individual. They become your worldview, your outlook, you know, how you see things. Black people are in a situation now where we have to take conscious control of the shaping of our culture. And it's something that very few people throughout history have had to do.
Right.
And that's
but you have to do it.
Right.
But you have to do it.
We have to take that step. And what that means is a lot of the things that other people take for granted or that just happen. Like, we all know there are a lot of white people that are what I like to call subconsciously racist. Right? They racist, but they don't even really know they racist.
And you want to know why?
So what I'm saying is
culture.
Black people,
culture.
We can't continue to allow ourselves to be shaped in this environment. So what that means is we go back to Christianity, right? Most black people are Christians in America. When you go back to the days of in the Bible, when you're talking about Jesus, the times when he was preaching, and even the times before that, the pastors, Jesus wasn't the only person that knew the scriptures.
Yeah.
The entire congregation knew the scripture, and they had to know the scripture so that they could identify false prophets. They tested people that came into the church with messages. They tested their knowledge of the scripture, and this protected them from being invaded by foreign people that didn't have their best interest at heart, and it also kept them from being easily led.
So you mean tell me, in regular people terms, that people did their research and knew what they were talking about and knew what other people were talking about and didn't just take what people said on face value?
Absolutely. You've got to be conversational, at least. We're not saying you got to be full-on English teacher, professor English 101. You know, we're not saying you got to be there with it, but you need to be able to have a general conversation so that clear and obvious BS is clear and obvious to you.
Yeah. But
and we got to get there.
But that's real though, because that bleeds into every aspect of your life, because you know we see it all the time. Social media is exposing a lot. We see it all the time, and critical thinking is very rare today, especially within our community. Critical thinking is very rare, and people take a lot of things at face value, especially if it comes from their favorite medium or their favorite platform. You know, I have conversations with people all the time, and they really just go off what the TV, the radio, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whoever, even us, do not believe what we saying. Yeah. Go do your research. Don't believe nothing we saying. Don't believe nothing we saying. Go do your research.
Because even in my working with kids and adults, I've frequently been taught new information by the people that I was supposed to be teaching. Like that's not an uncommon occurrence.
But that means you teaching, because as a teacher, you're still a student.
Right. Right. So the other part is the rub here, right? To kind of go, add on to what you were saying. If I take a group of people and make them more like me and less like the people I separated them from, that goes into the propaganda conversation we were having last week again. Now I have less concerns about these two people getting together, especially if they actively dislike each other.
Yeah.
I get all of the benefits that come with that culture group being on my side and defending me from other people who look and behave like them. It prevents unity. It prevents any real threat from occurring. It allows me to maintain control of the situation. Anybody that knows group psychology understands how this plays out when you create in groups and out groups. So there's that goes into the other component that you were talking about earlier about being able to control or conquer people, creating a system where I don't even have to consciously exercise that control because it's built into the system.
Right. Right. I mean, but even, going back to the point of the imagery that goes into the recreation of what they did at Nicaea and all these conferences. And now it rolls down to us today, because you go in any black church and it's still a white Jesus up there. And, that affects people's self-esteem, self-concept, self-ideal, self-imagery. That affects how you view yourself. That affects how you view your group. That affects everything. Because if you view that as the literal image of God, when you look in the mirror, you won't see God within yourself, and you got God all through you.
Right. And here's the last thing I'm gonna say about this, right? Because it goes on. What you just said made me think about it. I watch battle rap, right? And not just battle rap. Even Kanye had this thing with the Jesus Walks piece, right? But I'm going to battle rap because in battle rap is really a black space, a hood black space. That's the image they try to project, because it came from the hood. So in that space where everybody is familiar with and applauds and loves bars about how the black man is God and black man this and black people are this and that, and you have a lot of battle rappers talking that conscious stuff in their bars about killing each other. But what's interesting is when one of the battle rappers made a reference to Jesus and decided to have a Jesus character come up and spit some of his bars during the middle of a battle, guess what the Jesus character looked like? In a sea full of black people, he had a white dude come out with a wig
I saw that.
on.
I saw that. I did see that. I saw
a robe and spit these bars.
Right.
And of course, the rebuttal to that was a black dude saying something about the black man is God. But it doesn't change the fact that when the white dude came out and started spitting,
everybody went crazy.
The crowd full of black people lost their minds. They went nuts.
Instead of being silent like this mob, they went crazy because this stuck. It's imprinted into our subconscious mind. Oh yeah, we cooking.
Then you would start to do research and see its origin of where it came from. But unfortunately, this is the time that we got caught into bringing into the European white idolatry. Unfortunately, this is the time when that image became the deity and the spiritual subconscious of our minds, as I say, how the enemy became the deity. They produced that image on the world and brainwashed through the dogma of the religion that was real. And to this day, people think that whole concept of the Jesus thing is real. Now, were there men fighting the Romans? Yes, they were. And they deified them. Okay, that means that their ka, their spirit, they put it on the line. They knew that they were going to die. Okay, so translating that ka to the day would be the what? The ka, it becomes the what? The ka becomes the Christ. Okay, because we're talking about spirit. The Romans didn't understand spiritual things. They took the physical body literally. So as I said, why would they take the Serapis Jesus and the pictorial art and wrap him up as a mummy? If you're going to go to heaven, just get on up and go.
But I want to stop it right there. Not because it was funny how you said that.
Yeah, it was funny how you said
it. I love it though. I love it. But the Romans, he's talking about the Romans not understanding, not having a full understanding of the Egyptian spiritual system. So they put their own spin on it. And when they put their own spin on it, they further bastardize it. Because they was going to do that anyway. But because they lack full understanding of it, it got whitewashed even further. But just think how whitewashed this information is passed down to now in 2022. And we're talking about it being whitewashed in the early between the first and the 7th century, like between these early times and now in 2022, imagining how much the information is watered down and whitewashed. Because we talking about these councils, we're not talking about things that may have happened even before the councils, but we know we hitting on these councils because these councils were significant. So the information was whitewashed at these councils, and it's been whitewashed plenty of times since then. So on one hand, it's critically looking at the information that we have, critically looking at the information that you're going to call your spiritual system or your religion, especially if it's going to be specifically Christianity, really looking at it. Now, I don't think that you should throw it away. I don't. That's just me. I know a lot of people say throw it away. I don't think you could throw it away, or you need to throw it away, because just being real, we're talking about where we are here and now. It's so ingrained in Black American culture. I don't really believe we're going to really be able to throw it away. Black people are not going to give it up, and it's going to continue to be passed down. But how can we, I guess, refertilize the information? How can we re-Africanize the information to once again be able to use it to meet a said end goal or desired end goal, which is the self-actualization, Black people becoming an actual nation within a nation and being able to do what we need to do. But how we view ourselves and how we view those that conquered us really impacts us building ourselves up as a nation, because we always talk about, well, why can't we unite? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? One of my opinions is because we feel like the people who can best take care of us are taking care of us. That's what, in my opinion, I think that's what a lot of us feel like. White people can take better care of Black people than Black people. And that ain't true, because we got millions and millions and millions of history to prove that. But once again, how does that translate to us now? How can we use this information to help us now? How can we get over this mental hump? Understanding some of the things that have happened to us, understanding the spiritual impacts as well. If you don't take care and address the spiritual impacts that happen to us, we won't be able to get over that hump to self-actualization, what we really need, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. I think we don't. First off, I agree with you 100%. Getting rid of Christianity is not realistic. And in every solution that we present, we got to ask ourselves, first and foremost, is this realistic? Can this realistically be done?
Right.
And Christianity is something that Dr. Clark has said, and there have been plenty of other scholars that have said this, Dr. Williamson, Dr. Ben, you go down the list, that have said a lot of the things in Christianity came from African religious stories. It feels right because they took just enough to make it feel right. So it's not ever going to change. It's rooted in something that came from us. You know, and here we're talking about African people all over the diaspora.
Right, right.
It's rooted in something that feels native and real to us, no matter what culture we've turned into now. Let's not forget, Ethiopia was the first
Coptic
Christianity. Christian nation.
Right. So it's something, and I'm glad you said that, because it's something in it. And that's why, going back to, I don't think we should throw away. Now, the Ethiopian or the Coptic version of Christianity is different from the version here in America.
Right.
And there are different versions of it.
There are a lot of different versions.
Right. So we're understanding how we use the version, or how we interact or exist within the version that we have. But let's once again go back to our research and look at other versions of it, and look at it from, don't look at it from a mindset of, is yours better than mine or mine's better than yours? We're just looking for the information. We're just seeing how it's set up, how it's structured, how it impacts people. What is the imagery? Because I know some of the things that I've seen from the Egyptian Bible, the deities and the people in it look like the people, look like the Egyptians. I mean, look like the Ethiopians, excuse me. They look like them.
I think one of the things, going back to it though, is you can use the fluidity of Christianity to our advantage. Because when you really sit down and read the Bible is a book full of revolution.
Yeah,
Problem is, most people ain't reading it.
Look, Nat Turner read the Bible, and after reading the complete Bible for himself, he believed that God was telling him to revolt against his slave masters.
Yeah, I mean, people like to talk about it as a joke, but when Jesus got mad at what those people were doing in the temple, he lashed out and started beating people with whips. When he saw that something wasn't right, he took action. Like, there's a lot of different components in the Bible like that, where when something isn't right, somebody in the Bible is compelled to fix it. Not go with the flow, not blah, blah, blah. They're compelled to fix it. Yeah. So I agree with what you said. We have to ask ourselves, is the version that we're subscribed to or ascribing to most beneficial for us as a culture group? And if there isn't one, then we need to create one. But the idea that we're going to throw Christianity away, that's wasted energy.
It is. So let me say this so we can be clear, so there are no misconceptions or nothing.
I ain't gonna be there anyways.
Yeah, we're not asking anybody to leave the religion or join the religion. We're not asking anybody to do either. If you don't want to be one, don't be one. If you want to be one, be one. But whatever path you are taking, how can we as a collective be able to use the information? Because I also don't think that just because you follow this path that you shouldn't study the other paths, even know about the other paths, or be familiar with the information and seeing just the similarities and how the information can be used, but also so you can better understand the people that you're going to be uniting with. Because the brand of spiritual systems and religions that we exist in today still causes us, or still can be in aiding in us fighting against each other, because this person believed this and this person believed this, and mine is better than yours and yours is better than mine, and everybody's fighting with each other. No matter the religious or spiritual path, everybody's fighting, and we're still further losing what our enemy is like. Well, it's working. It's working. What we gave him is working.
But that goes back to what you said earlier about unity. You know what I'm saying? And I personally think we don't have unity because we don't know what unity means. When people say unity, they oftentimes mean uniformity. They want uniform. They want everybody saying, moving, and doing the exact same thing.
But you're not gonna get uniformity without unity.
Right. But see, the thing is, uniformity is a pipe dream. That's never gonna happen. Ever. Not unless we all get chips in our head and become part of some hive mind. Unity simply requires a bunch of people to be moving with the generally the same goal in mind. We don't have to agree exactly on how that's going to work out. We just got to have a similar vision and be tolerant of the differences. Joe and I are a good example of that. We don't agree on everything. Matter of fact, Joe is what I would consider at this point a conservative. I'm not. But we still talk politics. We still talk everything that we talk without getting into a pissing match or argument. And that's me with most of my friends, most of the people that I associate with. We do see it in certain spaces where you can see people who have a difference of opinion, but in having a difference of opinion and choosing not to engage in the subject is totally different from having a different opinion and still being able and willing to engage in the subject that you have a difference of opinion on, knowing that there's progress to be made there. Two different things. I think in mass, we don't see enough of that because everybody gets in their own silos, and then you hear something you don't like, you trigger. Now you throwing shots, you taking stabs, you insulting, you trying to just demolish the entire conversation. That ain't gonna get it. That's immaturity at its finest.
Yeah, but that's why I really dig this clip, and I appreciate Baba Ashra Kwesi for all the guidance, information, and knowledge that he's given over here. Because what I'm seeing with this is that other piece, that other piece of the puzzle. So further answering the why we behave the way we behave, because we behave individually and collectively and amongst each other the way we behave, because even down to the way a lot of us view the God that you serve, it's still a inferiority complex with white people, because the God you serve looks like the people who conquered you. And the people who conquered you gave you a programming that's self-destructive. And a part of that program was the spirituality that they gave to you. So now we got to reprogram ourselves on every level, especially that spiritual level, going back to those 9 areas of human activity, spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. We have to be reprogrammed. We have to reprogram this. We have to take critical looks at this, sit down and ask ourselves, all right, is the way I'm existing with this, is it really working? Is it really helping me to get, like, realistically? We're not talking about what you believe. We're talking about something that can be actually measured. I don't care what path you're taking. Put your belief to the side. Can you measure the effectiveness of it? And if you can't measure the effectiveness of it, we got to retool it. And that's for any walk, any path that you take. Any path that you're taking, because let's just be real about our situation here in America. No matter your religious or spiritual path, we all coming up with the same results. So what we gonna do? I say that's why we having these breakdown videos and putting solutions on the table. We have to I would say revitalize it or re-Africanize it. Really taking these critical looks at it. Do you really understand it? And if you do, all right, so how can we use that understanding, and how can we Africanize that understanding? Or if you don't like the term Africanize, how can we make it black? Whatever you want to use for, how can we make it work for us in our image? How can it work for us in our image? That's what we should be asking ourselves. That's what we should be doing on the individual and the group level.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I think that's all I got to say about that.
Hey, man. Mike.
Because I just don't, I don't, this is one thing we want to keep repeating ourselves and saying the same thing and trying to beat a dead horse when I think we pretty much got our thoughts out. So
yeah, and it's one of them subjects that can go on and on and on, because we talking about psychology, behavior, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, fucking, you just mic dropped it, so I'm
well, there it is. Yeah. Hey man, we love y'all. We love y'all. We love Black people. We love our people. We love our supporters. We love Black people. And our goal is to make sure that we can become a solid, positive, strong nation of people. That's our goal. Self-actualization, become a strong, powerful nation of people. But it's going to start on these individual levels. And we got a lot of work to do. But that's why we're here trying to help contribute to it. We ain't saying we got the answers. We're just talking. We're just talking. How can y'all contribute? How can you constructively contribute to the conversation? Keyword constructively contribute to the conversation. Because we ain't saying we got all the answers, but we just throwing our ideas and thoughts on the tables and seeing what y'all think. And let's put this all together. So with that being said, hey, once again, we love y'all. I'll catch this next video coming up. Peace out.